We begin tonight with a State of the Union address for the books, when last night President Biden achieved what Kevin McCarthy could never do, which was uniting the room and getting Republicans to jump from their seats in support of Medicare and Social Security. Yes, that happened. It was a masterclass, really, on out-negotiating Republicans, pulled off by Biden, who sparred with a raucous crowd of MAGA hecklers and won big.
No president added more to the national debt in any 4 years than my predecessor. They're the facts. Check it out. Check it out. Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote. Well, I'm glad to see you. And I tell you, I enjoy conversion. As we all apparently agree, Social Security and Medicare is off the books now, right? They're not to be sponsored. All right. I'm ready. We got unanimity. So tonight, let's all agree, and we apparently are. Let's stand up for seniors. Stand up and show them. We will not cut Social Security. We will not cut Medicare.
You see what he did there? Getting the Republicans so riled up that they made a public commitment to a major tenet of the Democratic platform. I mean, who needs a 2024 campaign ad when you can troll the opposing party into face planting in real time? And it was intentional. The trolling was literally in the scripted speech. Deft moves by a president whose political longevity sets him apart, which is why he seemed unbothered by the jeers, the contempt, and far too much fur. Remember, it was Biden alongside Speaker Nancy Pelosi who sat on the dais during the infamous "You Lie" moment in 2009, when a South Carolina Republican yelled at President Obama during his joint session of Congress.
The reforms I'm proposing would not apply to those who are here illegally. It's not true.
Now, at the time, the scandal, and yes, it was quite the scandal, resulted in the House rebuking that House member. But these days, such petulant outbursts are business as usual. You lie, they howled. Yet the disruption seemed to energize Joe Biden. I mean, I think folks sometimes forget, but Biden is a really good politician who has been doing this a long time. He literally used his speech to demonstrate Speaker Kevin McCarthy's lack of control over the hard-right extremists within his party. Biden also put on blast that facts and receipts do not matter to Republicans, only performative outrage. Do they not realize that the Republican plot to destroy Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid is an actual televised thing? What we saw last night was as Biden gets. Calls for unity, a blue-collar pitch, the promise of job creation, and to finish the job. And by doing so, he exposed something very important for America to see 20 months before a presidential election. He showed us what Republicans refused to stand up for.
I stand here tonight after we've created, with the help of many people in this room, 12 million new jobs, more jobs created in 2 years than any president's created in 4 years because of you all. Because of the American people. 2 years ago, democracy faced its greatest threats in the Civil War, and today, though bruised, our democracy remains unbowed and unbroken. Let's give public school teachers a raise.
Joining me now is Basil Smikle, Democratic strategist and former executive director of the New York State Democratic Party, and NBC News presidential historian Michael Beschloss. Michael, so I want to have you hold on for just 1 second. I normally would start with my in-house historian, we like to say our historian on the readout, but I have to come to you, Basil, to ask you, I mean, how happy were Democrats with that State of the Union on a scale of 10 to 10.9.
12. And I tell you, it was such a good job that even my Jamaican friends and family members who were usually very hard on Joe Biden called me and said, well, you're happy with Joe Rankin. By the way, those that don't know, Rankin is a term of honor. They were very proud of him. It was deft, it was nimble. He was fiery and feisty and gave as good or better than he got. Yeah. And as you're talking about the speech, what's important to note, the construction of that speech allowed him to hit every line he needed to hit. And it also proved, which isn't discussed as much, that even if Donald Trump is not in the race, he knows how to make a good foil of the Republican Party. Yeah. And that is a masterclass in the setup, in great delivery, but also in understanding who your opponent is 100%. And how to chop them up.
Yeah, they're going to have to start calling him Shaba. That's going to start happening. So let me bring you in, Michael. I mean, rank this speech because it was unusual, right? The room felt almost like the House of Commons, or maybe the House of Common, because the way that the Republicans were acting. But talk about this speech just in historical terms.
Well, it was almost like he was playing that audience like an electric piano in a jazz club. You know, oftentimes you have great speeches like Franklin Roosevelt for Four Freedoms in 1941 or LBJ with the Great Society 1965, but those were well-written speeches that were well delivered. This was three-dimensional. He was interacting with the audience. He was using them as a foil. I think that presidential speechwriters and presidential staff into the future will look at video of last night as how a president uses the occasion. You know, we've heard it so many times. This is probably more people saw him last night and listened to him last night than probably will at any time this year. It's hard to think that he could have been more effective.
Yeah, and the polls show that, the speech was overwhelmingly viewed positively. Even about 42% of Republicans viewed it positively. And, it does show the kind of benefits of letting Biden be Biden. I mean, the line, stand up if you love Social Security, stand up. That was in the script. We had the script in front of us. We actually had the speech in front of us. Rachel and Nicole and I and the team. We could see that this was scripted. Right. The parts that were unscripted were the parts where he got Republicans to either not stand up for things that were very Joe Americana, stuff that you would normally stand for, or made them get up and stand up for Social Security. And here's the thing he had on his side. Daz, I'm going to come to you on this first. The whole Social Security thing where they held, we wouldn't do that. Roll them. Here's the receipts that he knew were out there. This is Republicans talking about Social Security.
It will be my objective to phase out Social Security, to pull it up by the roots and get rid of it.
Social Security and Medicare, if you qualify for the entitlement, you just get it no matter what the cost. But what we ought to be doing is we ought to turn everything into discretionary spending so it's all evaluated so that we can fix problems or fix programs that are broken. They're going to be going bankrupt.
Recently put out an 11-point plan to rescue America. That would raise taxes on half of Americans and potentially sunset programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Why would you propose something like that in an election year?
Sure. Well, John, that's, of course, the Democrat talking points. It's a 11-step plan.
No, it's in the plan. It's in the plan.
It's literally in the plan. Here's the plan, the 12-point plan, all federal legislation. This is Rick Scott, who was in charge of the Republican re-elect for the United States Senate. All federal legislation sunsets in 5 years. If a law is worth keeping, we'll pass it again. And look, he's not done, like they say in church, but wait, he's going someplace. There's more. Here's Biden today. Take a listen.
I remind you that Rick Scott from Florida, the guy who ran the U.S. Senate campaign, has a plan. I got his brochure right here. Has a plan. Here's what he says in his plan. Let me open it up here. Sorry. He says, all federal legislation sunsets every 5 years. If the law is worth keeping, Congress can pass it again. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid.
It strikes me that part of what Biden did last night was he made himself an insurance policy no matter who runs it, he has to run against. Because, by the way, the governor of Florida, who all of the media love so much, he's a Tea Partier. He's for all of this when he was in Congress. Other Republicans, Lindsey Graham has said entitlement reform has to be happened. Rick Allen of Georgia says he wants to raise the retirement age because people want to work longer. Ted Budd, who got elected in North Carolina, says that he supports the Major Scotts of Rick Southland. I could go on and on. Was this an insurance policy in many ways to say, if I run run. It doesn't matter whether it's Trump or anyone else.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It was done in such a way that the foil is the Republican Party. It doesn't matter who the candidate is.
Right.
It is the Republican Party. And that's why that speech is so well constructed, because every line is a commercial.
Yes.
Every single thing. And you could see him setting it up over and over and over again. And we can imagine the rollout between now and the end of 2024. So it doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ammunition there.
You know what's interesting to me also, Michael, is that a lot of what Biden was talking about last night is stuff that Trump actually used to say, right? The working class are tired of getting screwed. Here's the things that Republicans, and meanwhile, this Republicans clapped for. They clapped for Paul Pelosi. That was very gracious. Ending cancer, consumer protection, burn pit bill. What they wouldn't clap for, Michael, democracy. Yes. Giving public school teachers a raise.
Small detail.
Small detail. Right. Lowering the cost of insulin, creating jobs. When you can get Republicans to not stand up for things that most Americans say, yeah, I want, the cable companies to stop screwing us over, or with the bills and things. I don't understand what Republicans' strategy is and why they think that'll work.
Well, you're assuming that there is a strategy, that this is not just ad hoc, and you're assuming that we've got a powerful speaker who can influence people on his side to do things like not scream from the cheap seats in the House chamber.
Can you say more on that for a second, Michael?
Can
you talk a little bit more about, because Kevin McCarthy, I feel like he looked particularly weak last night.
Right. Well, appearances are not always deceiving. This is someone who has so little control over this caucus. You can imagine if Nancy Pelosi or Sam Rayburn in ancient history had said to members of their caucus, be quiet, do not give the president of the opposing party a weapon by heckling or by sitting on your hands or by screaming. They would have done that because they would have been afraid that the speaker would put their furniture out on the street if the speaker was not happy.